You're dialed in to Byron Velvick's Fishtales. Real talk, real tactics, and the stories that make it all worthwhile. Here's Byron.
Hey, this is it, man. Bassmaster Classic week. As you're watching this right now, I am probably already in the Knoxville, Tennessee area or somewhere in Tennessee with my daughter and her friend. But how hard is it to win a Bassmaster Classic? That's the question for today's show. And, you know, doing Fishtales the last 6-7 months, I've had these amazing stories fall on my lap with we do the One That Got Away segment. And so many of our guests have a story that actually becomes something that happened in a Bassmaster Classic. So I wanted to kind of put the numbers together for you guys and show you just how hard it is, how many times guys are in a classic. You got to think about this. Only 40, 50 guys are competing. But you have Gary Klein, 30 times Bassmaster Classic, never won one. You have Denny Brauer. He's been in 21 Bassmaster Classics. He fished 16 before he won the only one he's ever won. Bill Dance, 8 classic appearances, never won a Bassmaster Classic. Boyd Duckett, 10 Bassmaster Classic appearances, and he won it his first time out as a rookie. Still, to this day, the first rookie, or the last time a rookie won the Bassmaster Classic, Boyd Duckett. And then I want to get Roland Martin on, 25 times in the Bassmaster Classic, and never won as well. You add that up, that's 94 attempts, 94 times our guests, including Roland Martin, who hasn't been a guest yet, has been in the Bassmaster Classic, and I'm talking only 2 wins. Boyd Duckett and Denny Brauer. I'm doing this all off memory. Thank you, Ken Duke, by the way, for all these facts and these stats, because I have been putting all this together. I'm like a little fledgling Ken Duke when it comes to all this. But so today's show is the story behind those near misses or the only ones that they won, the Bassmaster Classic story with the 4 guests we have. And like I said, it's going to be Bill Dance, Gary Klein, then Boyd Duckett, and Denny Brauer. So that's going to be our guests for this this look and review. Fishtales stories, all Bassmaster Classic related. And I got to tell you, first off, if you haven't seen it, you're in for a special treat. This was the one thing that Fishtales has done that by far has had the most traffic. It's Bill Dance's emotional story of the One That Got Away that cost him the Bassmaster Classic. I think we've had 38,000 views, probably pushing close to 40,000 views with this particular piece as a segment. So if you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat. If you have seen it, please watch it again. You know, to see Bill Dance get emotional at the very end, literally, it still bothers him to this day, what you're about to see. So without further ado, the Bassmaster Classic, One That Got Away, starting with Bill Dance, is coming up right now.
This was a classic, Bassmaster Classic tournament. So we could only carry 10 pounds of tackle with us. Well, you think about you going to a tournament, 10 pounds isn't anything. 10 pounds is a lot of stuff.
Right.
But I remember throwing 3 packages, and why I did it, I don't even know. I threw 3 packages of Bill Jackson's 6-inch purple and white dot floating worms. I know you've seen them. And in the tackle box. And when I got to that, running that point out, I said, it looks like fish at 32 foot. And so I spun around and I rigged it, South Carolina rig. And I threw it, went down, just moved it along, whoop, and I caught one. I went, threw it right back. It went down about 32 foot. I just pulled it, just reeled it real slow, kind of bumping it over stuff. And then, boop, one hit it, the line went cold. I caught him. I dummied the worm, and I threw back 3 more times and had 3 more hits. They just pulled the worm. And so now I've got a pack of 3. I've got 2 packs of 3 and 1 pack of 2. I like a dummy, I let him pull the worm off the hook. So Charlie Searcy from the Nashville, Tennessean was the outdoor editor. He was my partner. And then Charlie moved on and started writing for the Chattanooga Times. And I pulled up on that point the day of the tournament. And I threw out there in 32 foot, pulled nothing. Fanned it a little bit, nothing. And I said, doggone it. I bet those fish went out over the channel and suspended. Well, I just turned and I threw out deeper, 38 foot, and boop, I caught one. I caught another one, and I caught another one. From 38 to 42 feet, that's where they were. They just moved down a little bit deeper. The limit, I think it may have been 10, and I caught my limit, and off that spot. So the second day, I went back, and they had moved to 48 foot, 46 to 48 foot, and I couldn't figure out why they would keep going deeper and deeper. But I didn't care as long as I was catching them.
Right.
I was down shooting at. I was down to 4 floating worms the last day of the tournament. And Charlie smoked cigarettes, and I'd get a worm, and he'd be kind of gnawed up, where they'd gnawed on it. And Charlie'd get his cigarette lighter and go, ouch, ow, it's hot. And he'd blow it and stick it down in the water, and he'd shape it. He says, I think that looks pretty good, don't you? And it kind of looked like the worm had polio. It was all wadded up, kind of big worm. And I wasn't complaining. So the last day of the tournament, American Sportsman was shooting that show, and it was sponsored by Miller Beer. And it was a big, big event. And I had caught my limit the first day and the second day, and no one else had caught a limit. So I felt real good. So I went back to my spot, and my right hand pointing up to heaven, they went to 52 feet. Those fish, they moved 18 feet in the course of 3 days, or maybe 20 feet in the course of 3 days. They kept going down. Well, the water was going up, the levels. I don't know if they had I don't know if Clark Hill had a hydroelectric dam or not, but something drove them deeper. And I threw out deep, boom, boom, boom. Well, I was catching them. I never caught a big one. I caught some 3s and some 2.5s, which are good sized fish for a tournament. And the American Sportsman, Kurt Gowdy, photographer Bruce Buckley, and I don't remember who was running the camera boat. Lee Wolf was in that boat. I don't know if you remember Lee Wolf, one of the old timers, and Joan Wolf. Anyway, they pulled up. How you doing? And I said, well, we're just working on the limit. And I said, well, and I set the hook. I said, and then when and I said, I looked at Charlie. Charlie said, that's a good fish. I said, I know it is. And I just took my time, and I got it up, and it went, and it jumped about that high out of the water. And they went, missed that jump. Stupid me. I knew better. I had the fish right to the boat, getting ready to get him. And Buckley said, let him swim back out just a little bit and see if we can get him to jump again.
Oh, my
And Charlie
gosh.
went,
During the tournament.
like an idiot. Yeah, it was a winning fish. And I let him go out a little bit. He kind of wallered on the water, and the hook came out. And he went down. And they said he weighed 8.5 pounds. He didn't. He weighed about 5. To make it the drama, and Bill Ross, an 8.5 pound bass. So I did. He was about a 5 pounder. So anyway, I kept on. I got my limit. And I kept thinking about that big fish. I said, and Charlie says, you heard me go. When he said, let him jump again, I said, I knew better to do that. I don't know why I did it, Charlie. So I go in, and I was in first place. And everybody was saying, congratulations. Well, Rayo Breckenridge was coming down the lake. I'd weighed in, and there wasn't but about a couple of boats left. Roland was one, and Rayo was the other. Well, Rayo broke down about a quarter of a mile from the weigh-in. Well, Roland got hooked up, and he pulled him in. And fast forward, Rayo came in. I loved Rayo. He was a great guy. We fished a lot together. He just lived up the road here at Beach Grove, Arkansas. But he won the tournament. And he beat me, I think, by about a pound and a half. And
No.
Diane, my wife, in there, and she always said everything happens for a reason. I'll never forget that. She always said everything happens for a reason. Well, I was standing there, was just knew I had it won, and when Rio, I tried to keep a smile, but I was crying behind my smile. I guess I wasn't really, but I just went, gosh. And she walked over. She got my hand. She said, "Look at me." She said, "You remember me telling you everything happens for a reason?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I'm going to tell you something you don't know. Rayo is a farmer, and he's had 2 bad years. Price on cotton, price on beans, corn had fluctuated and was extremely low priced a bushel. So he had, and then the following year was another bad year." And she said, "What you don't know, Marilyn is going blind. That's his wife." And I said, "Really? I didn't know that." And she said, she told Diane, girls all got together, you know. She said, "I sure hope, I know you won't be able to win this tournament, but I sure hope Rayo wins it because we need the money for
Oh,
the eye
wow.
operation." And when Vivian told me that, I said, that feeling, that deep, gnawing feeling, just left. And I walked back over to Rayo. I said, "A while ago, I wanted to hit you right in the face." And he laughed, and, you know, but
Because you beat
I
me,
gave him a
right?
big hug. Then I went over, I hugged Marilyn, and she said, "Bill, thank you for not winning this tournament." And so I walked
Wow.
back over to Diane, and she said, "Remember, everything happens for a reason." And that's the way it turned out. I wasn't supposed to catch that fish. Uh,
Wow. That would have won you the tournament, and it would have cost Rayo's wife. Wow. That's an amazing story,
what
Bill. That's an amazing story. That really is.
it hurt. It was bittersweet. Yeah, it turned sweet, you know, after, but
Yeah.
that was the closest I ever came to winning a classic. I don't know. It was just, it happened for a reason.
Man, coming off of that right there at the very end, I had no words when I was taping that with Bill because you could see the angst of the fish. He played it off for that picture, and you know, he knew he shouldn't have done it. He could have put that fish in the boat and won a Bassmaster Classic. And for Kurt Gowdy, and you know, old time guys here, but the Kurt Gowdy guy and the American Sportsman stuff, he just wanted to get that extra picture shot. And wow, this has been what's cool about Fishtales, everybody, is I get to sit here in a room with these guys and hear these amazing stories. And our next guest, Gary Klein, you know, he had the most amazing one that got away story. And I'm not going to even preface it. I'm going to lead right into it. But again, 30 Bassmaster Classic qualifications, and he has not won a Bassmaster Classic. And he throws Roland Martin in there saying, "Hey, between me and Roland, we have 55 times we've been to the Classic, and neither one of us have won." So without further ado, let's check out the one that got away that cost Gary Klein his one shot at the Bassmaster Classic.
No, this is going to be the one fish that got away that literally, even to this day, a few years later, I still wake up in the middle of the night dreaming about it. I visualize it. I see it. It's just, it's just there, and it'll be there. I'll carry it to my grave. Set it up in 1986 Bassmasters Classic, Tennessee River, Lake Chickamauga. It wasn't an easy event. It was a summer event. Fishing pretty well was tough. Final day of the Bassmasters Classic, we're running 330 Rangers, 115 inline Mercuries on them, and I was in good shape. I was in the top 5 or whatever going into the third day. Well, my fish, I was catching crank in a gray ghost DB3 out on river ledges.
Okay.
I had like 12 pounds and 9 pounds, and I'm like in contention to win the Bassmasters Classic. But I had a area that was at the base of the dam that was about a 60-yard stretch of grass. And when they were generating, that grass would just move like this in the corner. And I had not been there yet. I found that when I was there practicing a month earlier or so. I'm looking at the generation schedule, and they didn't turn the stupid generations on until noon on that final day of the Bassmasters Classic. So I stayed in the bottom end of the lake throwing white buzzbait. Never forget it. I caught one fish. It was 12 1/4 inches long, and it was like 11:15, 11:30. I said, let's go. And I made the hour and something run all the way up there. God is my witness. I dropped my trolling motor. And back then we had press partners with us in the Bassmasters Classic. And I told my press angler, I said, between here and there, I will win this Bassmasters Classic.
No way. You called the shot. You
Called
pointed
it.
to the grandstands and you said, you Babe Ruthed it. You did
Big
the Babe
time.
Ruth, baby.
Big time.
All
So
right.
back then they didn't have tungsten. I was flipping a 1/2 ounce bullet weight. And I was actually flipping a Bobby Ditto used to make a worm that he called an eel. It had like a big rib. It was a big worm. But anyhow, now today it would be called punching. So I start my little venture up there and I catch one. Nice one, nice chunky one. I go a little bit further and I catch another one, a little bit bigger, chunkier one. That gave me those 3 fish. And I knew if I got one more solid bite, hands down, it was my classic. To make a long story short, I get to the end of that patch and I'll never forget it. Pitch my bait, had to jiggle it to get it go through, and it dropped down about that far. My line hopped. Bassmasters Classic. I hit the fish, and when I hit the fish, anyhow, some other things happened, but I pulled the fish. I got her up on top of the mat, popped up through the mat, and my worm came out of her mouth. And she laid on top of that mat, and it was so thick she couldn't get through. And I'm looking at the Bassmasters Classic, and she wiggled and went right back down in there.
Oh, no. You were looking at her.
I've got that just burned in my brain.
Oh,
I've had a couple other of those, but that right there in 1986, I think that would have been a really cool career booster. And but anyhow.
And that was that was your chance to win a Bassmaster Classic. You qualified for 30 Bassmaster Classics, and you had one flipping on the mat. Your trophy was on the mat.
But I didn't know that I was going to do it at the time. I said earlier in the show that Ricky's fished 32 and he's won 4.
Mm-hmm.
Roland Martin has fished 25 Bassmasters Classics and has never won one. And I surpassed his record by 5. So, it's something for Roland and I to laugh about all the time. You think about that, man. Between him and I, we have 55 appearances with no victories.
That just tells you how hard it is to win a Bassmaster Classic. Like how hard it really is.
Well, to me, I had that one. I've had 3 of them won, and I've had little things go wrong. But a lot of people asked me about the 2003 Classic, New Orleans, out of Bayou Sinette, the one that Iaconelli won.
Mm-hmm.
Iaconelli beat me in that event fair and square. I fished the Bassmasters Classic. Every bite I got, I put my hands on. I never lost a fish. And he beat me by a pound or 2, whatever it was.
Another amazing story. I hope you guys are enjoying today's look and review at missed opportunities and sad stories about our guest on Fishtales and their Bassmaster Classic stories. So here we're going straight from Gary Klein to Boyd Duckett. These guys are partners, by the way, the founding fathers of Major League Fishing. So later on down the road, we have Boyd Duckett on, and Boyd references Gary a little bit and kind of goes into his own spiel. Sure, he won in 2007 as a rookie. Cool story there is I was with Bass Center ESPN, and Robbie Floyd and I were doing on the water stuff along with my studio stuff for Bass Center ESPN, and JM and Associates had me doing on the water. So I was following Boyd Duckett on this particular run that he had in 2007. I was his guy. We were the camera boat, and I was all in on Boyd Duckett, a rookie. And like I said, this was the last time a rookie won the Bassmaster Classic was Boyd Duckett. He's had 10 qualifications since his first win won in 2007. Never won again, but check out the story we're about to share with you about the one that got away in a Bassmaster Classic with Boyd Duckett. Boyd Duckett, what's your one that got away?
I have one similar to Klein's. So when I won the Classic in 7,
Right.
and then 2 years later in 9, I think Skeet win 9. I think that was the right year. A couple of years, 9 or 10. Anyway, whichever one that was, it was on the Red River in Louisiana.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Red River Classic. That and Skeet won that tournament, but I led that tournament going into the final day, and I had a backwater area that had good ones. I mean, for the Red River, I mean, like everybody that got in there was a 4-pounder, and the final day was really tough for me. I had about 75 boats. Back in those days, you know, we didn't have Score Tracker Live, right? And so
Right.
the world followed you, and that became one of the toughest things to manage, was all those boats, especially if you're in one small, you know, area or a shallow area like I was. Anyway, fishing for me was really hard the last day with all those boats in there. And about my third fish of the day, and this is just a backwater slough off the Red River, so the water just slowly goes up into the woods, and there's a bunch of stumps and all that kind of mess, and gets too shallow, and you can't get to the bank because the stumps just prohibit your boat, you know, from getting in there. They're too close together. But I'm pitching those stumps, and I hook one, probably a 4-pounder, you know, solid 4+, about my third fish. And he jumps, and there's a stob sticking out of the water, maybe this big, sticking up that far out of the water, just a stick sticking up, tied to the bottom, obviously. This fish jumps and comes back down, and the hook impales the top of the stick. I mean, there's photographs of this. My brother always followed me in all the classics. He's got pictures of all this, the whole process. And the bass is hanging by the jig. It's through his mouth, but the jig is in top of the stob.
Oh,
and he's hanging off of this stob, and I am freaking out. You know, I mean, I need this 4-pounder so bad. I mean, you're talking about, you know, 2 classics. I mean, you know, you know, now, and I can't get to it, and I take my crankbait retriever. I mean, eventually it stayed on there so long. I mean, the fish had just died there. I mean, it just wasn't even moving anymore.
There was no way to get to it. Your boat was prohibited. There's so many stumps you can't reach. There's nothing you can do to get out there.
Could not get there, and I can't get out of the boat. And I undo it. I can get within about 4 feet with my crankbait retriever. I was trying to push it off. So it was, and then I called Trip Weldon, and I said, Trip, I've got a fish hung on a thing. I said, I knew I could power over the stumps and get to it, but I could never get off without help.
Oh,
I called to ask if I got in to get this fish, if I got stuck, could I hire help to drag my boat off if I had to? Because I knew I couldn't get out if I up on the stump.
You were literally gonna put it like up on the trailer. You were gonna put it up on the stumps and just freaking jack that boat.
I was just gonna throw it up on the stump to get that fish. Yeah. So Trip and Chuck Harbin decide that's not legal or whatever. So I do everything, and I finally, I mean, I've had him on now like 20 minutes. I mean, you know,
this is so sad.
I could pull on it, and it would come to me, but wouldn't come off, and you'd release it and it'd go back up again. And I'd pull,
and the fish is dying. The fish is dying. Now it doesn't matter. It's a dead fish penalty. The fish is you're tanning it. It's basically tanning on the stump. You're tanning him on a stump.
So I finally pull and pull. Anyway, I break him off and I leave him there, and he's just hanging there. So I continue fishing. Well, that tournament, I ended up on the final day, I had 4 that weighed 16.5. Skeet beat me by 2 pounds, and I left a 4-pounder hanging on the stump.
Oh, wow. Another great one that got away. But you left it. You had it.
I mean, I had it, but I couldn't get it. I mean, I had no way to legally get it. And there it lays.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
I wonder if now there's like an old carcass.
Yeah,
there's a jig and an old carcass. I mean, like, you know, those cool skeleton of fish. That's all artwork, but there's a skeleton of a fish with a jig stuck on it. If you got a picture of it, I'm gonna get it for the viewers that are watching this on YouTube.
Yeah,
I know podcast, you know what I podcast, half the 80% of the people listen to this, but I like to put a bunch of pictures in. And this is one of those times where I hope you're watching this on YouTube, because if you got that picture, I gotta share that with this audience. I love this because I never even heard that story.
Yep.
Like, I never heard that story in my life, in the segment called One That Got Away. And I had no idea you hung a 4-pounder on a stump and there was just zero way to get to it. You had to leave it there hanging.
Had to leave it there hanging, man. And Skeet would have hated
That's
me
the
for life.
Bassmaster Classic hanging on a stick. That's worse than Gary's, because Gary's worked its way back through the mat and went down. It's funny, you and Gary, we talked about this, how hard it is to win a Bassmaster Classic. You know, and you talk about, and Gary brought this up, you know, 30 qualifications, 35 qualifications, Roland Martin, Bill Dance, Gary Klein. It's like, you know, things have to go right, really right, for you to happen to win it. And when you put 2 or 3 guys and you can add up 100 Bassmaster Classics between those 3 guys, and none of them won a Bassmaster Classic, that's amazing, isn't it?
It
Like,
really is, man.
we got a Bassmaster Classic coming up, and I think this is a great segment to tie into that, like a short, if you will. But the mop has to flop, as my grandpa used to say. This is my grandpa's reel. Hey, from Boy Duckett's story there about a fish he left hanging on a stump. I mean, broke it off, and there's the jig and the fish. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. These are amazing stories, and I'm so glad you guys are joining me on Bassmaster Classic Week. The next guest we have is Denny Brauer, and you know, Denny Brauer's a neighbor of mine. I have a house right down from him at Lake Amistad. So Denny now lives in Del Rio, Texas, Lake Amistad. I have a house on 10 acres right down from him. By the way, it's for sale. So if anybody's looking for a house on Lake Amistad, message me here, because I have a house on 10.5 acres. I'm selling it. Shameless plug for anybody that's watching Fishtales that wants a house on Amistad right near Denny Brauer that you can hunt on, you can fish on, and boy, it's a cool place down there. It's a magical place. But Denny Brauer, again, he had 1 victory in the Bassmaster Classic, and after 16 attempts, that is the most attempts by any angler before they finally won one. And as Denny's going to tell you, people kept asking, hey, is this the year? Is this the year? It's like, how frustrating is that year after year for 16 years? But like he said, better to win one than none. So let's hear the story from Denny Brauer about how hard it is and just thoughts on the Bassmaster Classic.
Yeah, there really were only 6 events, and plus Bassmaster Classic. So that was a deal where you had to do something else to supplement your income. Obviously, the tournaments didn't pay that great starting out. I know I fished my first one in 1980, and then I won my first one in 1984. And I think that first one in 1980 maybe paid $5,000 and a $5,000 Ranger boat haul. And when I won in 84, that was right when it started to be televised. So the purses really started to go up. I think it was about 28,000 then for that first win. And of course, once CV got involved, things started to skyrocket pretty good.
So wait. The first Bassmaster Classic that you fished in 1980, first place of the Classic, was a boat and $5,000?
No, not the Classic. Just one of the regular.
The regular tournaments.
There was what they called invitationals, and there was 6 of those, and then the classics.
Okay. Yeah, back when Ray Scott was basically still hosting them. And I remember you win a boat.
The first classic that I fished paid, but it wasn't a whole lot. That was around when Stanley Mitchell won.
Yep. When did you win your Bassmaster Classic?
98.
98. That was your first one.
Yep. Had a lot of disappointments along the road.
Did you? A lot of bad ones? A lot of things you wishes you could take back?
Oh, no, I had a lot of, top 10 finishes, a couple of seconds, and 3rd, 4th, 5th, everything but first. It got kind of to where I almost resented the tournament at times, because I knew that I was going to get asked that question by the media. Is this going to be the year you're going to win? Well, hell, I don't know. If I catch enough fish. When I finally won, it was kind of nice. I didn't have to answer that crap anymore.
Well, you were qualifying for so many. Like, I think I asked you, how many Bassmaster Classics have you qualified for? And it was just almost automatic for you in those early years, wasn't it? 80s and 90s, you were fishing them almost every single year they had them.
Yeah, I think I qualified for 21 classics, but
gosh,
it was disappointing in some ways, because you had fish on that would have won, and for some reason it just wasn't meant to be. And finally, at the end of your career, you've only won one, and you probably should have won 4 or 5. So disappointing, but I don't think I would have felt my career was fulfilled if I hadn't at least won one.
Right, right. Well, I tell people that, I've won 2 US Opens, and it's the other ones that you danced around, the thirds, the fourths, the fifths, the near misses, the coming in one fish short on the last day and finding out everybody else didn't do very well, and all you need was that fifth fish, and you were thinking you had to catch so much more because the weights were so high the first 2 days, and the last day, whether it's a 3 or 4 day event, you miss it by a keeper, and you're like, I could have just, any keeper on the way home from the way up in the river would have got me another U.S. Open title. And nobody realizes how many times you dance with more opportunities than what it shows in the record books. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think as competitors, we always look back on what could have been rather than what we did do. And I think we're guilty at times of maybe not appreciating the success as much as we dwell on the failure. And
Yep.
I always tried to, after a tournament, just put it to sleep whether I wanted or finished last and look forward to the next event. Because I always felt that I was only as good as my next event.
Denny Brauer. So 21 classic appearances. It took 16 before he wins the only one he's ever won. But again, y'all realize just how hard it is? Roland Martin is going to be coming up as a guest. I already had Scott Martin on, and Scott said, yeah, Dad would love to do it, but he's still busy fishing just as much as he always has. So my hit list moving forward here, Hank Parker, Roland Martin, some other icons in the sport. I won't say all who, some big names, but those are all future guests, hopefully sooner than later, future guests for Fishtales. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And again, this has been an amazing week because of the Bassmaster Classic. If you're coming to the Classic, please come to the Livingston booth right off the bat because we're giving away 25 Livingston lures each day to Friends of Fishtales, FOFT, Friends of Fishtales. We're giving away 25 Livingston baits. And if you comment, subscribe, like, put a comment in there, let us know that you're in the mix a little bit. We're going to pick 5 people each day to win a Livingston bait that's not at the Bassmaster Classic. So right here, if you're watching this, go to the comment section and please just say, put me in the drawing for I'm going to try to get some Vipers out there. The BV Vipers, our glide baits, 6-inch and 8-inch Vipers from Livingston. But you guys, I hope to see you at the Bassmaster Classic. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing Fishtales. I just feel blessed and lucky to hear these great stories from these guys. It's amazing to me now, learning all I have. So many more guests coming up next week. Drew Gill, I believe, is going to be our guest, and that's all going to be about the genius, arguably the best forward-facing sonar live scoper on the planet, Drew Gill. So that's coming up next Monday. Until then, hope to see you guys at the Classic. Follow me on Real Byron Velvic on TikTok, Real Byron Velvic on Instagram, Facebook. Check out the YouTube channel, Real Byron Velvic, as well as the Livingston app. We got so much stuff going on. I just love it. So I hope to meet you guys at the Classic if you're coming. If not, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, kind of just being in the mix with me. This has been a fun journey, and it's something cool to do because, like I said, full-time dad, I'm around my daughter all the time, take her to school, pick her up, all those sports, and I can still kind of get back in and mix it up with everybody through social media. So that's what it's all about, is me just being able to be a full-time stay-at-home dad and still be in the fishing world again and in the mix. So I want to thank everybody. Hope to see you. This episode of Fishtales is over. We are jumping in the truck and driving to the Classic today. And you guys are watching this, we'll already be there. So have a good one. Enjoy your spring break if you're a Texan and you're on spring break this week. And I'm done. I'm stammering, but it's time to start driving. Bye, everybody.
Fishtales has been brought to you by Livingston Lures. Learn more at livingstonlures.com. Fishtales is also supported by these fine sponsors: Trika Fishing, Mercury Outboards, and Camus Boats.